Welcome to another episode of Mastering E-commerce Marketing. Today, I'm joined by Parag Mamnani, the founder and CEO of Webgility. Webgility is a leading platform helping e-commerce businesses streamline their operations, especially in accounting and inventory management. In this episode, Parag talks about how the focus for businesses has shifted from rapid revenue growth to sustainable profitability. He shares insights into the challenges smaller brands face in a world where big players like Shopify and major marketplaces are dominating the space. We also dive into how AI is playing a role in optimizing operations beyond just content creation and marketing, with a focus on improving efficiency and reducing costs. If you're an e-commerce brand or navigating today's landscape, you'll find really straightforward tips on how to optimize your business, manage costs, and grow smartly in a competitive market. Enjoy the conversation and let's get started. Welcome to the E-Com Pulse, your heartbeat to the world of e-commerce. I'm your host, Eitan Koter. Join us as we meet with industry leaders, marketing experts, and the innovative minds behind the tech that is shaping the e-commerce future. So plug in, gear up, and get ready for a pulse-pounding journey into the heart of e-commerce. Hi, Parag. It's a pleasure to host you here. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Eitan. It's really nice to meet you.
I know we have an exciting episode talking about SMB and Webgility and accounting and finance, some of the backend stuff of e-commerce. I know you've been doing this for many years in various companies. I'd love to learn more about where you started. How did you come up with the idea to launch Webgility? And you've been doing this for many years, so really excited about knowing better about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to jump in. Thanks again for hosting me. Starting off with the origin story, really, I graduated at the height of the dot-com bust. Entrepreneurship came out of a necessity for me. And I used to roll out of bed 7 a.m. and start making cold calls, selling e-commerce websites back in the day. So really got my hands dirty working with lots of small businesses, launching their e-commerce stores. Shopify didn't exist back then. We used to build on lots of open source platforms. But yeah, I really learned all the ground rules of setting up an e-commerce business and helping these merchants kind of get started in their online journey. And did that for about 7-8 years, then had the pleasure of working at Amazon on their platform called WebStore. So firsthand experience then kind of how to scale a platform, how to work with lots of really large merchants, and especially those that are expanding with omnichannel and going global. And across both those experiences, the top 3 feature requests was really, what do I do next? I've got my store set up. How do I optimize my operations? How do I do my accounting? And QuickBooks, which happens to be the most ubiquitous, system of record for most small businesses, was kind of the center of the universe, right? Like, how do I get all of my data into QuickBooks? How do I keep QuickBooks updated as my business is moving along on a day-to-day basis? So Webgility is really the brainchild of kind of those two experiences. And, we felt like we had a lot of great, I've understood really well what the merchant needs was. And so we built a solution and, haven't looked back since.
Wow, amazing. And you actually decided you would want to focus on SMBs, or it was just a coincidence, or just QuickBooks relationships, or how it's been?
Yeah. No, it's actually no coincidence. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and so small business is kind of in my blood. And I do really enjoy watching these small businesses thrive and grow. And as I look at the overall space, and it's more so true now than it's ever been, the large enterprises continue to take away a lion's share of what's out there in each category. And, there just needs to be more opportunity and solutions to help small businesses win, which is kind of the mission for Webgility. How do we help small businesses win in e-commerce?
Nice. So tell us more about where do you fit in the workflow, how the day-to-day operation of this part of the business is done from the brand's perspective, and when do you fit? Where do you fit in?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about QuickBooks as kind of a system of record, Typically, right at the start, when you're getting your e-commerce website set up or you're already a thriving brand, QuickBooks is usually the master database of all of your financials, right? It's the general ledger. That's where you track all your customers, you track your revenue, you track all your expenses, and you have to keep your books updated both from a sales tax compliance perspective. And certainly you need to have a good sense of what your inventory costing is as well. So knowing your books is so key. And when you're getting started, if you're just in the early stages of getting started selling online, you still have to set up your books. And so typically our merchants, we don't usually spend as much time with businesses that are just getting started on e-commerce because there's just a lot of experimentation happening there and they typically don't have all their books in order. But, our sweet spot is a business or a brand that's doing, about $1 million and up from there. And in that category, that space, most of these businesses use QuickBooks, number one, to track all of their financials. So we get involved as soon as an order is placed. We are able to bring in that order. We know who the customer is, the items, the inventory. Whenever a payout occurs, we know all the payment fees associated with it. Whenever they do a shipment, we know what the shipping costs are. When they do purchasing, we know what the original purchase price of the item is. So we're involved in entire post-order flow. And also on an ongoing basis, as they manage their catalog, they update inventory in QuickBooks, they change prices. We keep all of that data in sync. So we're the number one connector for QuickBooks for all e-commerce businesses. And we do a bi-directional sync. We can bring in data on a granular basis for merchants who track every minor detail in QuickBooks, or we can bring them in summaries whenever payouts occur or on a daily basis, however they like to do it. And, our typical users are both business owners and accountants. So we work with both sides of the house.
Yeah, so today the ecosystem is a little bit more complicated than probably when you started. Today, brands are selling not only on their brand.com website, but also they're working with marketplaces, they're working with the social channels, other affiliates, they have B2B partners. How this complexity is influencing your processes and your platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. So to exactly your point, it used to be you would be a single channel merchant and you would have a single source of data and you'd have one payment gateway, potentially in-house fulfillment. And now all of that complexity has multiplied, right? So as you add more channels, add more payment gateways, do varieties of different shipping partnerships, and you also procure products from different vendors, the number of data streams that you have coming in from all of these different channels is multiplied, and the timing of the data is different. The rules around each of this data is different, and that's all of the layers of complexity that we've built and been able to handle over all these years. So it's a bit of a moving target. The product is certainly not the same as it was 15 years ago. But yeah, that's the complexity that we face and we are able to really well, adequately handle, which is why, we've partnered with Intuit and have received, lots of accolades and partnerships with them to be able to support all of their product lines as well, including, all the omni-channel sellers that are out there.
Yes, amazing. There are so many different channels today that are being used by brands, and they are really not happy, but they're willing to sacrifice their margin and to do rev shares with other channels. And this creates obviously a dramatic impact on operation. Lately, and I'm sure you know that and you experience that, there is so much focus on operational excellence, profitability, and the growth is not enough. You need to show sustainable growth, but in a very healthy bottom line performances and showing that operationally you can sustain the company in a very profitable way. What's your experience with that focus lately?
Oh, absolutely. If you go back, there was a few years ago when Shopify coined the term to arm the rebels. This was in the height of the pandemic when everyone was moving online and everybody just wanted to get their online store set up, and you didn't have other channels to sell, right? Like it was no physical retail for quite some time. So e-commerce really just exploded and there was a lot of growth. But now that the post-pandemic era is here, we're now starting to really normalize e-commerce and think about what channels make sense, where there's the right ROI. Not to mention the changes that have happened in the macroeconomy as valuations. And yeah, so, there's definitely been a pretty significant shift away from focus on just growing revenue to actually growing profitability, especially over the last several years. So, if you look back at, some of the messaging from, say, Shopify, it was always about arm the rebels, right? And during the pandemic, there was this rush because retail locations were closed and all these businesses were running to get their e-commerce presence online and just expand to more and more channels. And what's happened is that, as you rush towards getting more e-commerce business, there was less focus on whether it was actually profitable. And now that, that gold rush has really subsided and now we're kind of back in the age of normalization, businesses, brands really have to be thoughtful about what channels are effective, how do they acquire new customers. And I must say that it's not just about small businesses and brands having to figure this out. Over these last few years, this the demand that got pulled in also attracted, the really large marketplaces to heavily invest in their e-commerce strategies. And we all know the rise of Shine and Temu, and these are competitors that most brands did not have to deal with before, right? So given just the opportunity, there's this almost sort of a gold rush of buyers online and all of these channels. And so lots of new opportunity, but the big guys are certainly getting a leg up, and they're able to find very creative ways. In fact, many of these large marketplaces can sustain to overspend and, have lower margins, but, most brands can't afford it, right? They've got staff to pay, and they've got costs and fulfillment challenges to overcome. So definitely the focus has been shifted from grow at all costs to really grow profitably. And I think that's really helped not just bring discipline for the brands, but certainly helped Webgility because that's always been our focus. How do we really streamline, get visibility first and foremost into where you're making your money? And then second, be able to take action on how do you actually improve your bottom line.
Yeah. How do you see the OMS industry evolving? I mean, with Shopify getting stronger and stronger, adding more and more capabilities to the platform, obviously with others enhancing their marketplaces and try to bring in more and more functionalities. How do you see the future of this sector?
Yeah. Listen, I think this has always been true, right? Like, I know we're seeing this now happen in sort of a digital world, but there's this notion of, hey, Amazon is finds your best selling products and then decides to 1P sell them. But the reality is this has always been happening. The big box retailers have always known what's selling the most, and then they find their private label brands or work better deals to get better and lower priced items on their shelves. And so ultimately I see this just as a continued evolution, as the platforms get larger, they open marketplaces, they open APIs. Now they know which products and apps their customers want the most. And then they figure out, which ones should they either acquire, which capabilities they should build, natively in their platform. So, listen, I think it's a healthy marketplace. The key really was and continues to be that for SaaS businesses, you need to continue to innovate, right? Integration, doing some basic data syncing, basic tools for listing and descriptions, basic tools for even, say, price management or launching a new store. Like all of those things over time, most innovations become commoditized, right? So ultimately it's for, SaaS businesses and app providers to really figure out how do they continue to innovate and find those parts of the market that really value their solution. Over time, Shopify is going to launch more native capability that's going to take away share from lots of SaaS providers. We just have to be on our feet and continue to react and build capability. So we feel really great about where we're positioned, right? I think There's a lot of native capability for Shopify and other BigCommerce and other merchants to do some basic syncing capabilities. There's even free tools out there, but ultimately you get what you pay for, right? You don't get the level of kind of complexity that we can handle. You don't get the quality and the service and the support that you need. And it also isn't, being built as quickly or adapting to all the changes that are happening in the market. So, you just have to kind of stay nimble and continue to evolve.
Sure. I mean, a successful company, you're totally focused on the thing that you do, and you continue to innovate with roadmap capabilities and listening to customers. So it's becoming a more tailored solution that companies are like must have, and it's not for them. It's not like a nice to have type of capability, right? So that's very, very important. I'm also interested in your growth journey. What were some of the challenges that you've experienced and how you overcome them, and how did the growth story unfolded for you guys?
Yeah, listen, the market has definitely evolved. There was sort of the pre-pandemic growth story where you had a certain set of channels that were growing. There was certainly evolution happening in marketing as, social media picked up. And then there was the pandemic era where you had a whole kind of gold rush. You kind of, you could actually limit some of your marketing spend, but, just the demand had really accelerated. And now you're in the post-pandemic era where you have so many channels that you can market on, so many channels and partnerships that you can build. And you have to really fine tune those channels and figure out where you're going to get them, the best ROI. So we've had certainly our share of ups and downs, and growth is accelerated or decelerated. But I think it's funny. I was actually talking to my marketing team just last week, and boy, I feel like this is, the hardest time that in my career to be a marketer.
Yeah.
Because attribution is near impossible. And so you don't have great tracking, and with all the privacy laws that have been implemented, and then you just have so many channels on which you can sell, and everyone has access to the same channels. So we're really just bidding up keywords and finding, you ultimately, to drive growth, you need to have creative strategies, and you need to be marketing, frankly, everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And so that again kind of makes it easier for the bigger brands to really thrive, and it's a challenge for smaller brands, which is why we've always believed, how do we help these small businesses win? Is we need to help optimize all the back office operations so that businesses can spend most of their time in driving channels and growth, because it's really, your biggest costs are your cost of inventory and your cost of advertising.
Yeah, really, really interesting. So you talked about growth pains and marketing challenges, and what's happening on the sector? I mean, on the SMB side of things, what are the challenges that those SMB are facing today, and what are some of the tips that you can provide?
Yeah, definitely. So we see definitely some consolidation of channels. I think small businesses are recognizing that there's a tax to pay if you're going to sell on so many channels and have, large catalogs and work with lots of vendors. So there's a bit of streamlining happening there as small businesses are being thoughtful about the channels that are profitable and the channels that work for their business. Certainly we also find, we all know inflation's really high. Of course, it's trending in the opposite direction now, but, over the last 5 years or so, we've seen such a dramatic increase in both costs of, labor costs, and also the, cost of getting inventory, not to mention, the fulfillment costs associated with it. So costs are rising, which is also making it harder for small businesses to make money. And so ultimately, brands are finding now ways to consolidate. Brands are finding ways to be more creative with their spending. And those brands that have their data, that understand what their financials really look like, they have a better sense of which channels are profitable, which products are profitable. Those are the brands that are continuing to grow because they have a much better tab on what's actually happening and where they're making their money. We feel really good about our product and our capability to really support those types of brands, because if you're investing in data and if you're investing in really understanding your financials, that's where the opportunity is for growth.
Yeah. So if I hear what you say is that there's a more focus on just making the strong stronger, whether it's a marketing channel or a 3PL or on the operational side or on the marketing side, on the support side. Is it correct? Just getting rid of the noise and try to understand what's working and what's not, and focus on those strong vehicles, right?
Yeah. Focus is key.
Mm-hmm.
Having a really strong grasp of your financials and your data is key. And then just being really thoughtful about where you're spending your money. Because, especially right now, as inflation remains high and the competition is rising, I mean, cost of acquiring a customer is through the roof. And so, you have to be really, really thoughtful about how many channels you expand to and where you're going to spend your time.
Yes, it's, I guess, very, very important, and probably your platform syncing data, making sure that inventory is managed in a proper way. It also gives opportunity for more probably quick wins and making marketing more holistic or even more agile, right? In some quick campaigns. Okay, I have the inventory, I know where it is. Here is the campaign. I'm not talking about discounts or anything, just some bundling things, or come up with some nice creative ideas to streamline marketing activities and to try to win, to have those small wins along the way. I'm very interested to have your perspective on what's happening with AI, because when I talk about AI with my guests, it's usually around, how to create content, how to leverage channels, marketing insights, and I would love to have your perspective around business operation, accounting, finance, some of the operational side of things, and how AI is evolving in these categories.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely topic on top of our minds as we're investing in AI, and we recently launched our AI assistant as well. Listen, my team and I have spent quite a bit of time really digging in. There was definitely a tremendous amount of excitement and hype when ChatGPT launched, right? Like, it was a moment, and we kind of haven't looked back since, because everyone's thinking about what are all the amazing things that AI can do. And there's talk about, startups that are going to be, generate billions of dollars with just a couple of employees.
Yeah.
Listen, I think those are great ways to sort of sensationalize and hype the technology. But when you really come down to it, what is AI, right? Like, what are you actually getting? Machine learning has existed forever. And now it's just, I think the combination of machine learning, the ability to do better natural language processing, and just the sheer compute power that now exists. You can, digest and process, gobs of data to be able to make assessments. So I think AI technology is absolutely here, and we need to find creative ways to really leverage it. But I think there's a little bit of fluff, there's a little bit of hype around, hey, I can just generate these great descriptions, it can help me write a cool email. The reality is all of that's going to get democratized. So what happens when everybody's got the same tool that can generate any description that all looks the same?
Yeah.
So ultimately, I think AI is going to put some power in the hands of the brands, as it does already. And I think some of the innovative, more forward-leaning brands are starting to use some of these tools very effectively. But the uniqueness and growth, I think, ultimately is going to come from putting this AI technology to really work in your operations. Because if you can find ways to help, really reduce your costs, give yourself that competitive edge that helps you kind of run your business more efficiently, more effectively, reduce your costs, thereby giving you higher margins. That's ultimately where AI can be most powerful. So again, I love all the tools that are out there for creative content generation, image generation, rewriting listings, descriptions, some optimization. These are some really great tools. I think those are table stakes, but looking ahead, what we need is AI tools that are going to really lean in, help the business owner optimize their operations and become more predictive. Be able to give these brands some insights into what's actually happening. Where is the opportunity? Where can they grow their profits and margins? And ultimately, at the very least, not just generate a description, but actually take some action for me, right? Like automate something, right?
Mm.
And that's kind of our vision for AI is how do we help small businesses really optimize their operations, leverage AI to really reduce their costs and get that competitive edge?
Yeah, so obviously for AI to work very well, it requires a lot of data, right, to learn from. Please share with us about the financial reporting that you generate on your platform and probably some of the use cases that you have in plan to implement based on this data. Just implement some AI functionalities and use cases that you might want to share.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, the first kind of key thing that I think changes with especially now ChatGPT is that I think there's a fundamental change that's happening and it will continue to evolve is business owners, users are going to evolve to becoming comfortable chatting with agents and AI assistants. So we're moving from a place where we've been overflowing with lots of reports and dashboards and screens of data. And we're going to start to move to a world where we get very comfortable talking to an agent to give us information. So thinking about financial reports, thinking about these, ultimately when you look at a report, what are you trying to do? You're actually asking it a question. You see a report and you want to know, well, did I make more money? Did I make less money? Right? Is my growth accelerating? Is it decelerating? So the report interface and those dashboards are really going to move away to a more meaningful conversation that we can have with this assistant. So that's actually the first place we've invested. So you log into Webgility today, you can actually, instead of pulling up a dashboard of a bunch of reports, you can just go to the assistant and ask it, tell me who my top 10 customers this year. Show me what their orders are. So that's the first thing that I think over time, this is going to continue to evolve. Especially, I'm really excited and looking forward to what Apple launches next because, that product is in the hands of 1 billion devices and consumers. And that's going to really lead to a change in behavior as people are going to go from looking at screens to actually having conversations with these assistants. So that's the first evolution I feel about AI. And that's it's going to change reporting, both for financials and just broadly your data. I think the second evolution is going to be in insights. We've come, quite a far way to like really just looking at data that's already happened, right? Now AI should really tell us what's going to happen, right? Like we need to know what are the learnings from the past data and what's the prediction? What's actually going to happen in the future? And I think with these AI models, predictions have become way more accurate than historically was possible. So ultimately, giving that power into the hands of those brands so that they know what's coming in the future is going to be really powerful. I will say here, to your point about data, I think this is where the big marketplaces, the big guys, they have absolutely the biggest competitive advantage because they have all the data. And a place where we see small businesses actually struggle the most is they don't actually have a lot of data, but the data that they do have, it's messy, it's disorganized. And so my number one tip for small businesses, brands out there, even if you're a $50 or $100 million brand, focus on your data. Get your data clean, build a data warehouse, have historical data. That's going to be that data is going to be precious. It's going to really help these AI assistants really learn and be able to give you those insights and predictions over time. So data is most important. And ultimately, I would say, there's definitely a big question mark of like, where do I get started? But I'm happy to dive in and share more, but it can also be a bit debilitating. There's just so much out there around AI. There's so many tools already now, and what works, what doesn't work. You kind of have to really demystify some of that and help kind of brands really figure out how do they get started.
That's a difficult one, right? I mean, that's not so easy. For those who are already operational and working, what is usually the the onboarding step with Webgility, the onboarding setup with Webgility, how it looks like and how long it takes? What is some of the best practices that you can recommend when you're onboarding your platform?
Yeah. So that's the beauty of Webgility. From day one, our focus has been on service. Until today, we actually offer free onboarding for our products. So while we have a free trial and you can self-service, there's tons of great videos and onboarding guides. You can connect your channels in QuickBooks and start syncing and everything easily. But ultimately, we have a onboarding team, and we can help our customers really learn how to set up their accounting correctly. And so we've got white glove onboarding. Businesses typically can start with our onboarding services. In the matter of a couple of hours, we can get them up and running and get all their channels connected and syncing. A lot of predefined rules. It's not that complicated, but our team is there, and all of our pricing and packages always include, unlimited support. So we're always there, and I think that's been both our differentiator and value add for, especially looking at what the marketplace offers today. Lots of go figure it out yourself apps out there.
Go figure out yourself.com. Yeah. Okay, nice. Oh, it's a really interesting and important differentiator. I totally agree. So thinking that you figured this out, 15 years ago, so it really was really interesting to learn. So how people can find Webgility, and what's the best way to reach out to you and get to know better the platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So webgility.com is where you would go, learn more about our products. We've got obviously a free trial. You can also just sign up for to get a free demo from our sales team, and e-commerce advisors are there to actually walk you through the journey. We also have some recorded demos on our site, so you can kind of get your feet wet and see how the platform works. I guess the best place to reach me would be on LinkedIn, and I do tend to post there the most frequently. My thoughts around AI, my thoughts on e-commerce, and I've had kind of a good front row seat over the last 2 decades looking at all the changes that have been happening in e-commerce. So that's where you can find me and all the content that I'm publishing.
Nice. And we will add all those links to the episode show notes. Parag, I'm also very interested in the work-life balance, right? Like outside of work. What are the things that you like to do? What are some of your hobbies, or maybe some of the other things that you outside of work?
Yeah. I'm since I've had kids, I've sort of established a much better work-life balance, and almost sort of forced work-life balance. I've got 2 young ones, and I try to find obviously those key times of the day when I can spend time with them. Outside of work, I love music, so I do spend a lot of time, following some of my favorite DJs and bands. And I play a little bit of golf, and I'm not afraid to say I do enjoy meditation, and so I definitely spend a little bit of time throughout my week and finding those opportunities to really reset and focus on what matters most. But yeah, definitely it's not always go time. You got to slow down and really think about what matters.
Of course.
That balance is really key to being a successful business owner.
And recharge from time to time.
Absolutely.
Great. Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm really just want to thank you for having me on your podcast, and excited to learn more about your business. I know we were talking prior to the show about your platform, and hopefully we'll get a chance to sync offline and see what else we can do. And for brands out there that are really looking to grow their profits and want to streamline all of their QuickBooks and accounting operations, they should reach out and connect with our folks here at Webgility.
Amazing. It was a pleasure hosting you. Very, very interesting topic, and I learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners as well. Thank you so much, Parag.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on this episode. Your support means the world to us. If today's episode has been insightful for you, consider sharing it with someone who would also benefit. Even one share can make a big difference. Looking to elevate your e-commerce game? Discover Vimy, a multi-channel e-commerce platform that will transform your business with the power of shoppable video. Visit us at vimy.net to learn more. It's Vimy, VIMMI.net. Thank you for being part of our journey. Stay tuned for more invaluable insights in our next episode.